Welcome everybody. It's already afternoon, so um, thank you so much for joining us on this track. I know that we have a greater strength outside, but at least I see some percentage being keen to learn about sustainability. And oh my God, it's going to be difficult to look at the entire audience like this. Yeah. So, sustainability. I don't know how many of you are actually with a background from sustainability, any bit background. All right, great. And how many of you are pure, hardcore, deep tech programmers, technology founders? Yeah. All right, so there is a subset which is neither, but welcome to all of you. And okay, let me begin this with my traditional definition of sustainability. That's always my starting opening line. That what does sustainability mean? So sustainability is actually refers to the ability to meet the requirements of today in a way that we allow enough resources for the future generations to meet their needs. And there are a lot of variations of this definition that you can read online, but this is where let's get started with this. And when we move this sustainability definition into, uh, is this better? Yeah, yeah. When we move this definition into deep tech, what does it mean? So we are going to, in this particular session, look at sustainability in deep tech and deep tech in sustainability. So deep tech in sustainability we are referring to all the use cases that we have with respect to carbon capturing, with respect to, let's say, precision agriculture. So any of such, if any of you are actually struggling to remind yourself or understand as to what could sustainability be, what could deep tech be doing in sustainability. So there are all these technologies which are really working on. In fact, I actually sat down and wrote many others, all the kind of recycling, smart grids, energy storage solutions. They are all using various kind of deep technologies for working towards sustainability, for a sustainable planet. And if we flip the coin and we not flip the coin, but if we go on the other side of the words, I mean with the word play, and we say deep tech, sustainability in deep tech, then we are essentially talking about optimized energy usage. We're talking about resources optimization. We're talking about responsible solutions, solutions which are probably headed towards a better society, more social equity. And that's, all those terms that you might have heard, ethical AI, those would form about sustainability in deep tech. Those would form those things. Now, but coming particularly to this session, which is more about investments, we have with us various investors at different levels. The idea here is to understand how is the technology shaping up in this space, how are these investors investing into them, and what is it that they would like to see more. So I'm going to get started first with one of the most interesting person I have met very, very recently because of this panel, and thanks Hari for introducing me to Naga. So Naga, I see that you wear many, many hats, and I actually thought that I would talk about your book at the end, but I think the audience will be able to appreciate this session even better knowing that we have an author amongst us who's actually written a book about, going back to Bharat, about sustainability and how India should be finding its ways towards sustainable development. And we're going to talk a little bit more about this. But Naga, I see you wear multiple hats. You are an Acumen partner. You are on advisory and investment committee of various other startups, colleges, businesses. But particularly with respect to, let's say, the context that I looked up your profile with was Acumen partner. So with that context, if you can help me understand, again, when I see there, you're talking about, as Acumen, you're talking about patient capital at one end, and then you're talking about seed and early stage investment at other end. So, so I wanted to hear, with these contexts of the kind of investments you're making, how do you really support the founders? And if any of your investments have deep tech involved, and how do you really see the role of deep tech in this world of sustainability?
Sure, great. Thanks for inviting me. I think good to see that this Forge started as a product nation, product conclave, about 15 years back. I remember being the first one, so congratulations Nasscom is continuing this for almost 15, 16 years. Really amazing. This book, this Bharat, I have nothing to do with what's happening now. Yeah. So it's not political because I get wrong calls from wrong people. So when are you joining? I'm not joining anything. Okay? So this started writing 5 years back. So this is about the Bharat going to the billion people that we ignore. So all the thing you discuss, talk, it's all about the 250 to 400 million who have, disposable income. They have, internet access. They may be living like most of the developed nation, right? So we're talking about the ignored billion. That's my definition of Bharat. So coming back to the tech as well. So it's been a while I come to Nasscom side of it because there is a bit of IT related things. That's what I'm going to probably demystify. The deep tech does not mean that IT alone, right? So Bangalore definition of technology is IT. I tell there are 300 million people do not have electricity, so I will write an app to track all of them, right? So this is what the Bangalore solution for tech and deep tech and all that stuff. So this is what you need to be start looking at is it's beyond some software. There's a technology available as well. So recently, Acumen, we started a fund called Climate Resilient Agriculture Fund. So we had a tough time and focusing on smallholder farmers, right? Smallholder farmer is below 1 acre land. We have a tough time identifying an entrepreneur who can go that deeper and do the smallholder farmers. And all of them sit in an AC room, put an AI saying that I'm going to scan India's agriculture landscape, I'm going to give you X and Y. I said 25% of Indian households have internet access now. How are you going to scan India, right? You got to be on the ground. So this is what the reality about India is not visible to many of us. That's why I wrote the book about how some of the grassroots innovators are understanding the problems of the Bharat and able to solve the problems of the billion people. So I'll give you an example of my own investments called Unifor. I'm sure all of you might have known now. But 10 years back when I invested, he was rejected by 25 investors, right? You see that IIT Madras, there is a row in there. I sit in the IIT Madras investment committee, all our investment. But 10 years back, nobody recognized IIT Madras. It took one investment like Unifor. What is that is about, there are 250 million speaks English in India. There are 1 billion do not speak English. That's the problem statement. So that means they're out of digital revolution. So how do I bring them into digital revolution? This was like 15 years back. A couple of guys at IIT Madras developed a technology, voice recognition, in 14 Indian languages and 100 dialects. What is the use case? 500 rupee phone, Gujarat, probably a tribal person do her bank transaction using your voice. Because your voice is a password like your fingerprint and iris, right? So this is what the potential of. So he was rejected by 25 investors. They said, it's not going to work. So that was my investment. I did when 25 people said no, he never gave up. Because the problem statement is valid, right? After hundreds of years of British, we still only 250 million speaks English, 1 billion to not. That's not going to change tomorrow. Problem statement is valid. He has gone deeper, listening to 25,000 hours of Indian voice every day. Today he's been valued as $2.5 billion, right? So this is about solving problem for the Bharat. And you will have solved a problem of billion people. There are 4 billion with similar problem. The technology we developed for the farmers of Tamil Nadu, it's helping MetLife Insurance and American Express. Right? Last week I was in Chennai and IIT Madras. He got incubated 15 years back with 2-seaters. Now he has a 300-seater in the same building. So this is what the potential is about. Interesting point is about he's competing with Google and Apple, right? In speech. But John Chambers wrote a $10 million check and took him to Stanford and saying that here is the future of voice. Why? He's now today recognizing 60 plus Indian languages and many languages across the world at 98% accuracy. So able to compete with $1 billion Microsoft budget on these things, Google budget and Apple budget. So he's a leader on conversational AI. So this is what you need to start looking at from the entrepreneur perspective. Pick a problem of Bharat, go really deeper. It took like 15 years, 10 and 15 patents with the IIT Madras to achieve that level. Right? Don't just ChatGPT, sit on that, I'm going to develop ChatGPT of X and Y and all that. It's not going to help for us. So that's what deep tech means for me. Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks, Naga. Actually, you gave a good definition, and maybe that will help us take our discussion further on other solutions. So I know, Swapna, you are investing deeply into climate tech solutions. So what are the kind of when, particularly in the definition of deep tech that we are talking, what are the kind of deep tech solutions you are seeing which are coming up, and which are the ones you really want to see? Are you able to see those that you would like to see?
Absolutely. So just to set background, I'm a partner at a fund called Avana Climate and Sustainability Fund. It's about a 120 million fund. The idea is to invest in next 20, 30 years. And by that, what I mean is, going back to Naga's point, Umesh has done a great job with Unifor. He built a large company. But I think the era of building for the next consumer enterprise solution has served India well. So from a time where there were 25 investors who all rejected, probably now we have 200 who are ready to reject deals. I think what has not really arrived in India today is the time for actually investing in climate companies which can solve for the next 20, 30 years, right? And that is something we saw in India, and we started our journey that let's build for that space. My background is I have been a deep tech investor in India for last 10 years. I was with Qualcomm Ventures prior to this. It's one of the largest, deepest technology giants in the world. Really saw that journey, and what saw that India was coming of age. India was coming of age where it was no more that I can build the next Amazon and Uber and build a large company, but can I go deeper? Can I build a space tech company? Can I build a drone? Can I build something else, right? And as we started to further peel the onion, it became clear to us that if we had to, and honestly 1.5 probably will happen, right? 1.5 degrees Celsius, etc. And 2070 is a milestone, which is a milestone we have artificially set. We probably will reach it, we probably won't reach. But I think it's important that we know that large corporates cannot solve for tomorrow. It is the startups where the agility will come. So we said, let's look at India, divide it into various sectors and see where innovation will come to solve for tomorrow. So if you look at India, you look at energy transition and resource management, supply chain and mobility, and agriculture and food system. Between these three, which are large contributors to GDP, almost 70%, 90% of India's emissions lie there. And each of these are large needle moving areas. So if I can do small technological shift and startup innovation, I can really move the needle forward. Then we further dissected, we said there are two ways to solve for a problem. One is process innovation, where you do incremental changes. You digitize stuff which has been happening for last 20, 30 years, you can continue to bring innovation, right? But what about the moonshots? What about the breakthroughs which can really set us apart? So think about the way we consume today, the way we construct today, the way we commute today, it's all the same. What has really changed probably in last 10 years is EVs become more real than ever. So okay, fine, I move from IC engine to EV, but even if I move from IC engine to EV, I'm still not able to solve for emissions at the origin, right? I can take away the pollution from the city center, but you're still burning coal. So there is a journey to energy transition. So while solar has been done and solar is now real, there are other ways. What's happening in hydrogen? What's happening in other alternative chemistries, alternative material? So we have taken a view that whatever has happened in the past is great, but what will happen for tomorrow cannot be done unsustainability for the future. So can we find alternative chemistries, alternative materials to solve for each of these sectors? So in EV, we are seeing a lot of innovations across the supply chain, be it battery, be it controllers, be it motors. If I pick up, say, agri and food systems, we are finding new ways of producing food. So how we produce food today is we put a lot of pesticides, use a lot of water, our water is depleting, soil quality is terrible. Can we produce food in a different way? So recently we invested in a company called Eiki Foods, which actually has built a polymer chamber which reduces your water consumption by 80%. It doesn't need arable land. So they're doing it in deserts of Rajasthan, where the temperature goes 40 degree plus, minus 0 degree, but still they're able to get everyday crop at everyday prices. So for example, the recent tomato crisis in India, where tomato prices went as high as 160 rupees, they were able to still produce everyday tomato at 10 rupees. And that's what we need to solve for. Because climate change is real, floods and droughts are going to happen. What can we do in product innovation that we can change the way world is? Think about movie Mars, right? Matt Damon still was able to grow a crop in Mars, right? Why can't we do it here? In extreme, hostile terrain and climate there, how can we change food? And same goes for energy transition. So while solar is solved for, what are the new ways to get energy transition going? And that's how we think about product innovation.
Brilliant, brilliant, Swapna. Absolutely. Hats off to all the work you're doing and the vision you're bringing to the capital power you have, because it is much needed. And coming to you, Hari, and one of my most favorite investors absolutely understands what sustainability means. And when I look at the kind of investments he makes, that's the reason he's actually sitting here, and the kind of advices he gives to a lot of startups. So Hari, last I met you was very recent at Slushed. Yeah, you were organizing that. It was a deep tech conference. And next I meet you is at Nasscom Future Forge this week. It's a deep tech conference. You of course invest in technology solutions. and I'm sure you would have gotten a round of what all kind of solutions are available here. In your view, when you look at all these startups which are growing up today, do you think they're building for a sustainable tomorrow in whatever solution they are building?
See, I can say that some of our startups are extremely sharp and they are really futuristic. Some of our founders are really futuristic. They are building with a long-term vision. So if you generally see, most corporates have really polluted the world. I would call it as corporates primarily because if you look at power, agriculture,
Construction.
all
Yeah,
water, everywhere we have polluted the world. We don't have any explanation in terms of why we have done it, right? But today, time has come where we see that, we are continuously trying to do something, but we are not doing enough. So I do see a lot of startups who are challenging this issue to see whether disruptive things can be done, which can make a significant impact in the overall environment. For example, green hydrogen is something where we have had some real good breakthroughs from Indian scientists or Indian researchers, where you can just create a very small tree type of an object which takes solar energy, uses water, converts it to hydrogen and oxygen and also power. And it can be stored also. Now these type of things are still at a, I would say, pilot stage, but you can, from a tree you can create a forest and that forest can generate power and it's all clean power and it is all, absolutely low cost. Now these type of technologies are finding their way into India. Similarly, if you see, traditionally, if you see, going back to what Naga has said, we have a tribe called Sauntals, which is in the eastern part of the country. The Sauntals always built sustainable, living, which means that they would plant trees, they would, have water, they would have everything in a new place so that you get birds, you get animals, you get all types of things, and the children would be taught in terms of how to protect the environment. I think today we just don't care about the environment. 99% people just don't understand the type of problems that we are creating for ourselves and for the future. And from an investment side, if you see, we are only looking at government grants mostly. Thanks to people like Avana Capital, they are futuristic. There are many other funds which are now coming up in India who are looking at this on a long-term sustainable basis, but still we have a problem. We don't have investors for these type of funds. See, investors typically want to, put into cash guzzling, consumer internet companies who will burn maybe $1 billion, but they don't want to put 500,000 in a startup which is trying to fight the climate change. So we have a problem in terms of mindset. Not only Indian investors, I would say globally, we have this problem that anybody who invests in sustainable technology, they think that this money is down the drain, but we have so many examples where sustainability has been established along with profitability, which means we have many companies whose focus is on sustainability and climate change, but they have become very profitable. And technology is the only way by which we can do it. So now we have, a new technology in solar, which can actually do 10 times more with the same type of footprint. And that technology is almost real. These are all technology done by Indians. Only thing is they are not doing it in India, they are doing it probably in Silicon Valley or in Switzerland or some other place, which has given them grants or which has given them the support. So I think in India, though government is, talking about it, I would say private sector and philanthropic money has to come into sustainability because this is very dangerous if we don't address this problem. So I would say that startups are the only way by which we can challenge this problem. And the other thing is corporates have to start paying tax because of the way they are polluted. The tax has to directly go into investment, especially for looking at research and innovative support to entrepreneurs. Today's young entrepreneurs are very conscious about the environment. That's one of the best things which has happened. We see so many young people who are all talking about how to, challenge, something which is just going down into the, which is just left alone. For example, we saw this time in Tata Socials, we saw a company, we have a lot of chickens which are cut in the streets all over the country. Now this chicken feather takes 50 or 60 years to decompose. So we found a startup who have done a process where they process this chicken feathers and create fine muslin type of fabric. Similarly, these are all very young startups who have worked for 7 years, 8 years trying to do this because it's a very serious problem. Similarly, there are many other startups who are working on, challenging some of these problems which we have just thrown and which are continuously polluting the environment, polluting water, polluting air, so many other things. So I would say that our startups need to be supported, and we require, many investors to actually fund sustainable projects and sustainable innovation.
Absolutely, Hari. But so one of the points that you actually mentioned was about almost like right to climate justice, that the corporates which are polluting need to be penalized for all the wrongs they're doing, and maybe they need to pay for all the wrongful impact which is happening on people who are not responsible for it. So if an industry is polluting water and the people around it are getting sick because of it, maybe the industry needs to take the onus of one, of course, cleaning the water, but two, pay for the bills of those people who have gotten sick because of it.
I have a fundamental problem here. See, this world belongs to everybody, right?
Yes.
So if there is a gold deposit somewhere,
Yes.
does it belong to one person or one company? It belongs to everybody in the world, including the animals and plants and everybody. But we claim ownership and we start taking that out without giving back anything to the system. So I fundamentally see a huge problem of how natural resources are utilized and mined by corporations at the cost of the common man.
Correct. So that's where I'm saying that the world is actually moving towards the right to climate justice, considering this, that you don't have the right to pollute it for everybody else because this belongs to everybody else just as much. And at the other end, we are also moving towards, I personally have this, like you said, fundamental problem with philanthropic approach, particularly of businesses which are not transparent in their business operations. So if you have not come out with your own sustainability report of your own business operations, I don't think such businesses should ever be allowed to do philanthropy and become Robin Hood. That before the world they go and paint that we've donated so much and we are so awesome, and maybe we are dependent on that fund so much that we quietly take that fund and we make something good out of it. But in reality, we should probably shun such corporates away and say, you don't have the right to do philanthropy unless you fix your own home and unless you stop doing wrong to the world. And that's another debate for another day. But Naga, coming to you on the same lines, what Hari said is true, that there is a lack of capital for sure. Do we have a lack of intent? Probably too. Because for any good change to come in, you have to have resources as well as intent. Only when both of them go together, that's when we can bring in a change. What I am looking at is that you have really invested in a variety of startups, which are, not the DeepTech understanding of AI, but really technology-based solutions in a lot of them. Do you get enough VC support, or are you able to move enough capital in those areas? And when you look at these, because a lot of VCs have this, that, oh, if it is tech or tech enabled, I might invest because then it is scalable, it's investable as per me. What kind of solutions you see where you have that percentage of technology, like, it's 70% technology, 30% manual, oh, it gets invested. If it's reverse, it's not. Something to that tune. And how are the corporates and VCs really contributing towards the funds for them?
So the problem in the non-tech space is like 95% of the funds happening in India, about $10 million. It's coming from US, right? There is zero VC in the country today who will write just $10 million, $20 million check, and he will join around with someone else. So it's funds coming from US, then this guys, people sitting in US will know only the US problems, selling idlis, t-shirts, and all that stuff, right? And last probably 2017 time frame, people say that asset light model. Now suddenly all these bikes are lying around across Bangalore. So they're all asset. What happened? There is Elon Musk happened, right? The poor guy was failure 10 years back, now he's successful. Now everybody spend space tech, EV, all that money is pouring in because the money is coming from US. So that is why it is more important for more money to come from India. So that's my another initiative that I have in Madurai. We have Native Lead Foundation, just have more wallets open. As Gopalakrishnan says that 1% of every HNI's wealth should come back to startups. He has done amazing, he's put 10% of his wealth. So he's invested in many of my startups as well. It is starting. So there's only one fund that he's supporting is going to start a Series B fund from India. Otherwise, zero Series B fund in India. So that's a problem that we are solving US problem, not India's problem. So that means that how Unifor did it, how others have done it, it is possible. If we don't pick up this +1, there are how many EV charging companies, how many EV things, right? So people think EV will solve the problem. I have EV as well, but we are not solving. I'm not polluting Bangalore, but I'm polluting Jamshedpur and Bhilai, because 80% of India's electricity comes from coal. So we're not solving the problem at all with EV. So this fundamental understanding of Bharat is important. India is important for you to solve India's problem. Like for example, in Bangalore, there are 6,000 ton waste created. Sahas, one of the investment, does 100 ton of that waste. From there, the wet waste go to carbon masters. So they're using technology from IIT Mumbai to just crop the gas and makes bio-CNG. All our trucks run in our own gas, right? So they get out the bio-organic fertilizer. The fertilizer goes to my another investment which does organic farming, right? So this is what the circular economy possibility is. So now the future, the ESG, what Hari mentioned, I've invested in a company called Solaron 7 years back, right? So we put out a report, a guy sitting in Koramangala, he put out a report, he will bring down $1 billion company's share price down, because it is about what they're doing on the ESG part, right? Today ESG is a mandatory. So that's a great news for us. I'm very, very promising about the future is that doing good is getting celebrated. Elon Musk makes $1 billion selling carbon credit every year. So how about my weavers, right? What I'm wearing is handloom, so there's 9 million weavers. What is the carbon? So my next investment that. I'm going to put a beacon in every loom. We are capturing the data, so, and we do a calculation of that. So automatically carbon credit will go to the weaver. So that I'm not working for the poor weaver picture, I'm positioning a sustainable fashion in the European market. So people who are willing to pay for a sustainable fashion. I will prove with the data collected in a beacon in every loom. So that's the potential of what you can solve with India's problem. So similarly, if you look at Sahas, we have around 200 plus, rack pickers, now have a dignified job. Now we are installing robotics and, clarifying, sorting the waste. It's been featured in Discovery Channel about one of the high-tech waste management. It's in Jigni right here. So there's water, right? So last week, Bangalore was shut down, right? Why? We didn't have enough rain. So this happened every time Bangalore did not have rain. So that's what my another startup is working on, that we will recycle the water. You can drink your STP water. We're going to launch a Singapore model kind of recycle water. If every apartment in Bangalore recycles, we don't need Kaveri 5. We are stealing water from Kaveri because Bangalore is now 12 million people, right? Sure. So if every apartment in Bangalore recycle, we save 5,000 crores. There's no Kaveri 5 required. Bangalore need not be shut down, because we are recycling, or there's enough water that we are wasting. So this is what the Bharat problem, this is what the India's problems are. People start looking at it, how data can be brought in and how tell this part. So now the Bangalore government empaneled the startup saying that every apartment should have this technology. Yeah. So we'll take the water, recycle and sell back to them the clear water. So this is what the future is. So US GDP is 6.8 times bigger than India's, but per capita emission of US is 5.8 times more than India. If carbon is the new gold, who is rich? So we are already there, right? That's what the Bharat has a solution. We talk about, regenerative agriculture, the Zoom cultivation in Meghalaya. This, the people identify land, one area, so they cultivate for a few years, they leave the land fallow for a regenerate. They move to the Zoom. It's called Zoom cultivation, right? So the Bharat has solution for the current problems. We are searching somewhere else. Yeah. Right? Same with women empowerment. Matriarchal society is followed in Meghalaya still. So that's what my point mentioned here. The last point is about, there is a ESG for corporate. You do all the crazy thing. I have a CSR watching you, I have ESG watching you. And then there are social businesses that what I'm investing in. It's working on people, profit, and the planet. So we need to merge these two, right? So that's my final conclusion. The book is about define social business in the country, so that the investors, the consumers, the entrepreneur, they're all very, very clear, because consumer, each individual choice is what's going to make sustainability possible. Otherwise, we're going to blame someone else who's not in the room, say that he's his problem. But what are we doing, right? Are we using the metro? Are people just carry the cloth bag? They think my sustainability quota is done. Absolutely. Right? So this is what we need to start looking at, about individual social responsibility is more needed for a climate resilient. But the good news is carbon. If you're in Bangalore, look at the Forum Mall area. We put a plant, entire waste of Koramangala get converted into the bio-CNG that got into the Empire restaurant. This has been proven by German in an award. The startup, government, citizen all got an award. It is funded by carbon.
Yeah. Sorry, Naga. I mean, and I understand that one panel is truly not going to do justice to all the awesome work you do, and we really need to hear more about it. And I know our time is up, but I need to touch on one small point. So I'm going to take a permission that give me 1 minute to, really come to you, Swapna, on one thing before we go for a last word from all of you, very quickly. We've all talked about the lack of capital, that the problems and Indian problems, Bharat ka problem should be solved by Bharat capital, or we should understand what are our real problems and we should find solutions for them instead of trying to solve for some other country. But you are one of the rare capital, houses which are actually solving for Indian problems, and you're looking at it in a very, very genuine and deep approach. Tell me, how do you scale these solutions? Because one of the challenges I hear from investors again and again is, oh, this is a good problem, a good solution to a really important problem, but I can't invest because I can't scale it. It's not scalable. It's good for this small place. So how are you working on scaling these solutions? Are these scalable, and how are you looking at it from investment?
I think for us, it's quite clear what we are dealing with is not other forms of capital can solve for. We are not solving for what a grant or an accelerator or a debt or a working capital can solve for, right? We are looking at this real risk capital, which goes after this company, and these companies can actually scale from 0 to 1 to 10 to 100 in a short span of 10 years, 8 to 10 years, right? That's how we look at every company. Now, again, I would be kidding myself if I say here is the money and the problem is solved, right? Because most startups are early stage, they're also still learning and growing. But what we have learned across our entire team and our investment experience, probably we have seen 5,000, 10,000 company invested in 100, exited 10, 20 of them. The pattern really shows that while money is great, what you really need is a lot of access across ecosystems. So there are 4 key access ecosystems that we are building. One is corporates. And there is no go, while corporates could be part of our misery and problems, but they're also part of solution, where a lot of sandboxing, GTM, market linkages happens at large corporates. If you talk to any large corporate today, they are very clear that while we have created the burden of the planet, our businesses are at risk. As Shell thinks about, say, loading the last oil can, it's thinking about how energy is getting transitioned. HUD is thinking how consumers are moving towards more sustainable packaging, more sustainable consumption, right? So all these large corporates need that, so we work with that. The third key piece is policy and regulatory. While we can think here and sit and we are great VCs, but a lot of this has been a constant push from government regulatory policy academia, be it the UPI movement of India, be it now policy around solar, be it policy around EV, which has pushed the ecosystem forward. So you need to constantly work with everyone to get that going. And third is actually a lot of these companies, while we put equity, we know there are parts of the problem which can be actually solved with debt, working capital, equity and grants. So we continuously work with those pools of capital to give access to our companies.
All right. So thank you, everyone. I had so many more questions, but I'm going to make way for the next panel because who have been very patiently looking at us. And thank you so much. The only appeal I make as I leave this floor is let's really learn from what Naga, Swapna, and Hari have said. If you are a corporate, if you are an investor, if you are a startup founder, if you are building a solution in any which ways, please build it for Bharat. Please give it some deeper thought as to how whatever you're working on, how is it really going to contribute towards a more sustainable planet and social equity, and of course overall prosperity for the nation. So please keep that in mind before you take your important decisions. So thank you so much.